Okay, enough of that stuff. What's cracking, ladies and gentlemen? We are live on Monday night in the US because it's Tuesday here in Australia. Interesting to see what you guys think of this time slot. Drop in the comments, let me know you're breathing, and let me know where you're tuning in from. You may notice my backdrop's a little bit different today. I am joining you from Melbourne, the city where I started my business 11 years ago. Great to be here. Got a great guest on today. We are talking about one of my favorite topics right now, LinkedIn video. Since LinkedIn has introduced video, it's become, well, first of all, it's one of the most shared styles of content, but it's such a great way to connect with your audience. For myself, hi Storm, how you doing? Storm's one of our regulars. Thanks for being here. Video is one of the ways that I've built my brand, so I was walking through the airport a couple of years ago and a security guard come up and said, Nathaniel, I watched your video about how you started your business. Good on you. And I was thinking to myself, no one's ever come and stopped me out in public because they read a blog post or they read an image post that I did. Video has that way of creating that emotional connection with people so they actually remember your content. And hi, Jeff, how you doing? And Jeff's in Melbourne as well. He's liking the time slot. Cooper up in Sydney. Yeah. All right, awesome. Yeah, so I'm a big believer in video. And, one of the things that I've always been saying is, all the videos on LinkedIn are the same. You hear a lot about it, people complaining about cringe LinkedIn videos. And look, people are making an effort. It's an immature platform. But I've always believed that when these creators that have got talent, whether they're posting on TikTok or Instagram or just creatives in general, when they move on to the platform, it's going to be a different marketplace. Because why? Because videos will be creative. So I'm scrolling through the feed and I see this video of this chap with a beard, and he's walking through the park and he's delivering all this value. And I'm thinking, there it is. That's what I'm talking about. That is that creative stuff that's different. And Lewis, look, he's got a big audience. It's got, I think it's 8,000 or 9,000 followers or something like that. But you look at his engagement, it's off the charts for the number of followers that he has. And so I thought, what better person to come on to Monday Night Live and tell us all about his secrets. And I'm just as curious as you are to hear his story and hear what he's doing with his videos. I think from the little exchanges that we've had, he seems like a great guy, seems to add a lot of value. So without further ado, I'm going to bring him on and I'll let him share a little bit about his background and then we'll dive into some really, really difficult questions for Lewis. All right, so here he is. Welcome, brother.
Difficult questions. Oh, good. I'm glad you told me. All right, awesome. What's up, man?
We've got somebody from Denver in the house. Cool.
Nice.
Awesome. So, dude, welcome. Thanks so much for doing this. Really appreciate you being here.
Of course, man. Thank you for inviting me. It's truly a pleasure. It's my first LinkedIn Live ever, by the way. It's the first time I've ever done a live. So we'll see how this goes.
Well, you're building the #1 video community on LinkedIn. I'm planning, or in the process, I should say, of building the #1 weekly live show. So you're here for the early days.
All right, rock and roll, man. I'm here for it.
Dude, your tagline is ungeneric videos for ungeneric brands.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean? And why do most LinkedIn videos feel so generic?
So I think a lot of people try really hard to sound like an authority when they may not actually have the experience to back it up with. I think that's a chronic issue on LinkedIn. And so to me, what defines something as ungeneric is that you actually have experience with it and it's based on your real life experience. Because a lot of people are going for this really strong thought leadership content. You need to be a thought leader to be on LinkedIn. You need to be an authority to be on LinkedIn. But the fact is, people value experiences more than they value opinions. And so the problem I see with LinkedIn anyways is that it's full of opinions, but not a lot of experiences. And so for me, when I say ungeneric videos, it's not about being zany or, whatever, not jumping off of swing sets or out of trees, although I do love to do that. It's more about basing the video off of who you really are and what your real experiences are, because that's what's going to make actually genuinely interesting content.
Wow, I'm so glad. Like, I'm so glad that you said that. What a great answer. You know, yeah. When they first started introducing content like articles to LinkedIn, I had this same dilemma. I was like, I want to post all this content, but I didn't feel at the time yet that I was enough of a authority to say, "Hey, do it my way," because I've achieved all this. And I look back at my content, and what actually I started doing was my articles. If you look back, they were like 10 things that I've learned from Tony Robbins, or like I was like sharing things that I was learning rather than, it took me a while to be like, actually do this because I know it works. This is what I've achieved.
Totally.
So yeah, you're spot on.
Yeah,
Very
that's
interesting.
right on the money, man. I was the exact same way too. Like, I mean, I've only been really at this hard since September 2024, so it's only been like 6 months. And
Wow.
yeah, but at the beginning, I got really lucky, and I was able to do a podcast with Laura Costa.
Oh wow.
As soon as I started building in public, and the point of the building in public was to base the content off of my experience. And then I landed these podcasts with Laura Costa, then Yasmin Alish, then Niall Ratcliffe, then Ruben Hassid, then on and on and on. Like the list goes on and on. And what I was able to do is leverage their authority and their experience to say, hey, this works. I know this works. Like, if you here's their words, here's what they say about this, and then add my commentary to it, right?
Yeah.
And so in that way, you don't have to be the expert. You just need to say what you think about what they're saying, right? So Laura says this, oh cool, like this is how I interpret this, and back to Laura because she's really good at this. And that was always the approach I took. I still do that all the time.
Yeah, that's great. Mm-hmm. That's so cool. It's interesting. Like these big LinkedIn creators, because it's still a small net. There's like a lot more than a few years ago. Don't get me wrong, but like they're just interested in talent. Like you could have like 300 followers. And if you're really good and you post a video of Yasmin Alec and he thinks it's awesome, he will hire you. Like they're just looking for good talent. They don't care.
Yeah.
So, if you're good, you're going to get picked up and you're going to get that visibility, especially in the creator space. Like if you target creators, that's very interesting.
For sure.
What are the biggest mistakes do you think that most people make with LinkedIn video that kill engagement straight away?
Whoa, that's a hard question. Okay, let me think.
That's what we're here for, brother.
the biggest mistakes that kill engagement right away. Goodness me. Well, you have to make people care about your content. You have to give them a reason to care about your content. And the way I see, like, there's a few ways I see. I think there's 4 ways that I've sort of nailed down that allow people to care about what you're doing and therefore increase engagement on your content. One of them is humor. Not everybody can do that, but if you can, do it because it's like a cheat code. Another one is transparency. So this is like authentic stories, struggles, showing, again, experience. So I made a text post not too long, a couple weeks ago, about just like my struggles coming up and like what it was like to have content that didn't do well for 2 years. All of a sudden now it's blowing up. It's authentic. It's like, it's transparent, and that transparency attracts people. And there's something about LinkedIn. LinkedIn loves stories. And so that's another way to get people to engage more with your content. Those are huge. A third way is to feature somebody or something that they already know. So again, podcasts, lives, that kind of stuff. Fantastic, because they don't come for you. They come for the person you're talking to, right? Like everybody's here. Like, you're here for Nathaniel. I'm just like along for the ride, right? And it's cool.
It's that familiarity, right? Yeah, that familiarity really makes a big difference. Yeah,
exactly. So they'll comment or they'll engage because they like the person that you're talking with, right? And then that authority and trust gets glued onto you. Yeah. And then the fourth way is to share content that's so good is that they say, "Oh my God, I can't believe this is free," And so with that, the way I view that is that it's really, really, really good to always start with what is the desired outcome they're going to achieve when they consume your piece of content, and make that known right away. So if you look at my posts, I'm always talking about, I gained this many followers in this amount of time. I got this much money in a month after posting this kind of video. I gained this many leads from this post that I made, that kind of stuff, because I'm aware that the people who tune into my content, they're not making videos for video's sake. They're making videos because they want more leads and ultimately more sales. And so they want to know what kind of videos lead to more leads and more sales and more followers, right?
Yeah.
And so at the beginning of all my content, and I recommend this for everybody, it's like, understand what your ideal client really wants when they're working with you, and then shape your content constantly around that thing, and let it be known at the very, very, very beginning. And not only will that increase sales, but it'll also increase engagement and make them go, oh my God, I can't believe this is free. Because you're like, here's how I got 11 qualified leads from a text post. Here's the exact structure I used. Here's the story that I used. And if you do that, they're like, wow, if I take this, now I can go get 11 leads from my next post, right? But you have to frame it at the very beginning, like, I got this result from this. And then if you steal this, you can get it too. That's the thing that makes them go, oh my God, I can't believe this is free.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the clients that I work with are business owners, and they're not creators. They don't have any experience in social media or video or anything. So the biggest hurdle for them is just the mindset shift of switching from, I'm doing this to get something out of this for my business, to I'm doing this to add value. And that's the biggest shift. Because all the things you're talking about, they come from a place of like, how do I deliver the most value? How do I help these people? Right? Not once have you mentioned any business outcomes for yourself. No. Did that come naturally to you, or where do you think that comes from?
I learned this from Dakota Robertson really early on. He's like a buddy now, which is awesome. But the way I learned it from the get-go was that, like, you have to be taking people from a less painful state, from a painful state to a less painful state. And that's just the way I learned how to do this, at least when I started taking it seriously in August, September time. And so I don't think, it didn't come naturally. For the first 2 years, when my content sucked ass, and I didn't get any likes, I didn't get any engagement, I didn't get literally 0 clients, 0 leads, for goodness sake. In 2 years of like Instagram and LinkedIn or whatever, nothing. And the reason why is because I was always trying to like be funny, or I was trying to show my portfolio, or trying to explain what I do, or here's this client reaction to their video that I gave them. And it's like, nobody cares. Like, nobody cares, because it doesn't take somebody from a painful to a less painful state, right? And so once I learned that from Dakota, it was like, oh, that's how good content works, at least in the educational B2B space. That's how good content works. And so that just became my ethos. Like, that's it. Like, that's all I try to do in every piece of content. Now I'm experimenting with story-based posts and that kind of stuff. But that was literally all I've been doing up until about 2 weeks ago, was just like following the what, why, how framework of like, what is this about? Why is it important to them? And how can they take action on it right away? And then just recycling that over and over and over and over. And that's what makes it relevant, right? No, it wasn't natural, but once I started doing it, it started working.
That makes perfect sense, because I think what you're talking about that you did in those first 2 years, like that humor and all those extra things that you were doing, that's like the magic dust that you sprinkle on top of the content, right? Which you had down packed first, and now you've got the format and the structure and the value add piece, and then you're adding that flavor on top of it, and it's just making it go bananas. That makes perfect sense.
Totally. And this is the thing, a lot of people ask, like, if we're going to talk about ungeneric videos, like what an ungeneric video is, oftentimes people interpret that as like, oh, you have to be funny, or oh, you have to like do something like a new kind of video, and like it has to be something nobody's ever done before in order for it not to be generic. That's not true, right? Like it just means being authentic, just means being you. And
Yep.
and the primary goal with every piece of content is always to deliver value, like freaking value, like, and not just like blah 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 value, not something everyone's heard, but like if you learn a framework or a way that something worked for you, you give that away as soon as you can, because that's the thing that's valuable, right? It's hard-earned knowledge, and if you can shorten somebody's time between getting the goods and from where they are right now, like that's ungeneric content. Like that is it. It has nothing to do with being funny. Being funny is just great. It's just fun, but it's not the thing, right?
It's unique on LinkedIn, and it works. That's why it works so well when you sprinkle it in there.
Yeah.
I do a lot of YouTube videos, and YouTube obviously is all video. It's much further along than LinkedIn. And one of the biggest things that you'll hear people talk about on YouTube is you have to let people know what to expect when they watch your content.
Yeah.
So like, if you're doing different formats all the time, I think that there's value in that when you're figuring out what works, for sure. And I'm doing quite a bit of that now, to be honest. Like, but when you do find a format that works, like a structure to a video, maybe they're a certain length, or you do them in a different style, or it's a weekly live show like this, that works, and you do it repetitively, then people know what to expect. And you have followed a formula. Like it'd be very easy, I would imagine, for you to keep creating like new ideas all the time, but you've stuck to what works, maybe experimented a bit here and there. But how important do you think that is, the format of the video and the way you structure it and where you film it, and that kind of thing?
Right. Yeah. So wait, before I hop into that, there's just one thing your point made me think of, which like you're talking about like basically like focusing on one kind of video. Is that sort of what you're talking about? Like focusing on one particular kind of content and then sticking to that rather than trying a bunch of different things? Is that sort of
for the most part,
Cool. I've heard this idea, especially now, like in 2025, started in 2024, where there's this idea that like content creators used to be able to post about their life, post about anything, and it would do pretty well. You get these like vloggers that would like lifestyle kind of content, and they could post literally about anything, and it would kind of blow up. But what's happening is now that the internet is so clogged and there's so many people vying for attention, it's really come down to hyper niching, like more and more so, especially if you're just starting out. Like you have to get known for a very particular small corner of the internet and like become the go-to person for that one thing, right? And I've learned this from Kane Calloway, and he's like a master. He's got like 1 billion views across all different social media channels. Really smart guy. And he basically just talks about like the algorithm actually prefers it when you stick to one thing over and over and become the most known at that one thing. And that goes for YouTube, it goes for LinkedIn. I think it goes for all platforms, because then the algorithm knows what to feed your stuff to, right? You get that algorithmic push because now your algorithm knows who to feed your content to, because you've talked about the same kind of content over and over and over. You don't talk about your dog, you don't talk about your cup of coffee, you don't talk about like politics, you talk about the thing that you provide value for, and you just do that over and over again. And then the algorithm's like, oh, that person must know, in my case, that person must know about LinkedIn video, therefore I should feed his video to more people who want to know about LinkedIn video, right?
100%,
so you get like a special boost. Okay, so now that I got that out of the way, so how important is the format? Incredibly important, I would say. So again, I alluded to this before, but a really, really, really simple format that literally anybody can do is the what, why, how. And I've actually broken this down even more I call it the bread and butter, because I literally do it for like 80 to 90% of my videos. The bread and butter. So you start off with like a hook, right? You have your hook, and that can be like a bold statement, that could be using numbers. Those are typically the kinds that I like to go for, is like, I got this result, or you call somebody out. So are you a lawyer in Melbourne who wants to get more clients from your, LinkedIn video or whatever? Then this video is for you, right? So you call them out. So there's a few different ways you can do hook. And then from there, after you've done your hook, you add a little bit of social proof. So this is how I got this result for this person, or this is how I got this result for myself in this time, or this is how this person got this result by doing this, right? So you give a reason to watch the video with that social proof. So you got your hook and your social proof. And then from there, you go into what, why, how. So what it's about, right? So just clearly, what is this video about? And sometimes that can be covered in the hook itself. Then you go into why the viewer should care. So when you're convincing somebody why they should care, you're speaking to their pains, you're speaking to their desires, you're showing them that you understand their pains and their desires. You're telling stories about yourself, about how you went through the same pains and had the same desires. Like a lot of the why is just like relating with people, right? So hook, social proof, what, why it's important, and then how. So how is just where you deliver the juicy goods. So how is all about, how can you take action on this immediately? And the more immediate they can take action, the better. So the more actionable and like tactical and checkbox step by step it is, the better, because that's going to be the most valuable for people. And it's always really good to back up your how with a real example of what it is. So not just saying like how to do this, but like, this is how you do it, and here's an example of how it was done, right? So I always allude to examples in my post for that exact reason. And then you give a call to action. And so if you look at my posts, like they follow some form, like 90% of them follow some form of that over and over and over and over, because it just really, really works. It makes it a relevant piece of content that people know they should listen to, why it's important to them, how they can take action right away. And if they want to go deeper, call to action that they can work with you or check out your free offering, your newsletter, or whatever it is. And it's simple. It's actually really simple. But if you nail it, it's like all you need. That's why it's the bread and butter.
Yeah, absolutely. And the people are there's all different areas of that people miss out on. So I'm going to get a bit granular now. So
okay.
Like that structure, when you say that makes perfect sense to me for the video and for the caption. Is there anything that you do differently in each, or do you use the same formula for both?
By caption, you mean like the written post for the LinkedIn post?
That's right, the written part that goes with the video, yeah.
It's pretty much the same. I mean, it's the same structure, largely same structure. But obviously with writing, there's different rules, right? So for instance, when you're writing a LinkedIn post, when you're creating your hook, often it's really good to let people know, you got to give away the ending of what it's about so that they click read more, right? So I usually do it on the second line. You can do it on the first line too, but usually it's like, a really good hook that I've used is like, everyone tells you that storytelling is important, but nobody says how to do it. Let's fix that. So now you immediately know that this post is going to tell you about how to do storytelling, and so you click read more to learn how to do storytelling because you're interested in learning. So without that, they wouldn't know how to do it, right? So there's a bunch of different ways to do it. Dakota walked me through a number of these. I wish I could remember them off the top of my head right now. But basically, essentially, it is the same structure, yes. But you always want to keep things, obviously, mobile. I always optimize for mobile. So I'm keeping my sentences short, to the point, cutting fluff ruthlessly. You can use AI for this now. It's pretty good at it, to like edit your stuff down really, really well. Again, I'm putting what it's about at the very beginning. I mean, gosh, anything else? I mean, I'm often putting like a PS on my posts too. Like I'll have like a emotional ending when it comes to the post itself. So it's always good to end your written posts on an emotional high or an emotional low. So either it's like, you got this, you can do this, and you're like, telling them you're like on their side, or it's like, you could, either decide to do LinkedIn video now. This is just an example, but either you can do LinkedIn video now, or you can live the next 2 years in obscurity. The choice is yours, right? So it's like a low point where they're like, oh shit, if I don't do this, now I'm gonna like not be noticed on social media. So you're sort of ending on a higher low. And then in the PS, you can add hey, by the way, you know, if you want to work with me, go here. You want more of this, follow me, or whatever, right? So same, but a little different.
This is gold. This is, yeah, guys, drop in the comments. Like, if you're getting as much value out of this as I, like, there is different levels to LinkedIn, and what Lewis is talking about right now is super high. Like, this is super valuable content. This is the stuff that, you know, some of the biggest creators don't do right sometimes. You know, and there's a big gap between, you know, the beginners and the advanced. But like what we're talking about right now, is really that's what makes the difference. Like with the huge engagement Lewis is getting, like this is gold. I will bring up Amy's question. I want to make sure that we answer questions. So
Hi, Amy.
drop in your questions. I want to make sure that you guys get as much value out of this as I am. What if what you are consulting on isn't that easy to attain? Great question, Amy.
What do you mean? I'm just so I'm clear on how to answer that. What if what you're consulting on isn't that easy to attain?
Yeah. So, I mean, Amy might drop in the chat, and there's a little bit of a delay, like 20 seconds or something.
Okay. Sure.
But for the way I understand it is like if the value or if the consulting that you advise is just it's a bit more complicated than just to give a snackable tip, like what's some ways that you could incorporate what you do into something that would work as like a bite-sized piece of content?
Right. So you can't get like a snackable tip, right? Because it's not always like what you can apply right now. Okay.
And I think that applies to like most businesses. Like if you think about it, you do have to think about something that you can action right now. You know, you can't really get them to do like, you know, a 5-part framework in one post.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, there's a lot of businesses like that actually, where like you can't give away everything that you do in a step-by-step process because it's not that kind of business, right? Okay, cool. So for that, a really good way to do that is if you basically, there's a couple ways. Okay, this is fun. I love this stuff. So one way is with belief shifting. So this isn't exactly like, you know, you're not giving away step-by-step processes here, but you're showing why what you do is important to them and why it brings value to them. So with a belief shifting post, you're basically coming at it from the approach of, here's this really commonly held belief in your industry. Here's why that's wrong and proof that's wrong. Here's a belief that actually you should be thinking about to get the result you want. And here's why that's right. And you can often like add, if you want step-by-step, it doesn't have to be step-by-step, but like proof. You just need proof that it's right. And then what that does is that it positions yourself as a sort of, you have a contrarian opinion to the commonly held belief in your industry. Oh, good. I love it, Storm. Awesome. So if you're able to shift beliefs of your viewers, you position yourself as somebody with authority and value, because you're not just going and saying what everybody else is saying. You now have a contrarian viewpoint. And I would go as far as to say anything that's of value is inherently contrarian. Like if you're just saying the same thing as everybody else, it has no value. And so in order to have value, you need to have a different take, but you need to present it like, here's this belief, here's why it's not helping you get what you want, here's the right belief, here's why it will help you get what you want, and then call to action. So that's one way. That's I gotta
jump in. I gotta jump in here. This is gold. Because one of the things that we, you know, that you got to think about is your audience may not care, even if you tell them what the thing is, if they have these limiting beliefs, right? Like, and you can't shift somebody's belief just by telling them. Like, you've got to use some storytelling. I think, like when you do talks, when you do keynotes, one of the things that professional speakers are trying to do all the time is just knock off all these objections or beliefs that people might have before they get to the end. And it's the great way to do it is, you know, I used to believe this, and then I come across this, and now I believe this, or, you know, and so you not only are you like you're doing all the things you're talking about, but you're also like actually bringing in some audience members that might not have considered what you're talking about before. It may even help you get prospects across the line just by, like, if a prospect gives you an objection when you're talking to them, and they say, and this is a great example. So in December, everyone says to me, or the end of November, oh, we're going to stop our marketing because everyone goes on holiday over Christmas. And I'm like, no, don't stop your marketing. We get the most engagement in the holidays. And they're like, yeah, whatever, mate, right? But if I do a post and I say, and I say, I used to believe that, you know, everyone goes on holidays. Then I tried it and we got the most engagement we've ever got. And now we go full tilt in the holidays. All the people that have that belief, you bring them in and give them the opportunity to engage.
Totally. And that's the beauty of belief shifting content. Like, it is that you are handling an objection and then just sort of like dismantling it. It's great. I have one more type too.
Yeah, I interrupted you.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. No, that's super. That's awesome. That's a great way to put it. Like, it's always handling objections. It's fantastic. The second way you can create content, Ryan Musselman calls this the warn and inform strategy. And I love it. Like, if you don't know Ryan Musselman, you need to check out Ryan Musselman because his writing is some of the best on the platform. So what he does for this is he'll basically start it off with a personal story where he was struggling with a problem that he knows his ideal client has. So for him, for example, he helps coaches get more clients, you know, through establishing an offer and doing a pre-buy experience, he calls it. So he'll say, like, you know, I used to take on, you know, I was struggling doing lots of low ticket offers for long period of time. You know, I used to believe that this was the thing. And then he'll kind of go through his struggle of like what it was like, you know, days and nights working 80-hour weeks, you know, just all the pains, just really piling it on thick. So he's warning people of what happens if they continue to do this thing that people typically do in his industry.
I know exactly who you're talking about. I didn't know the name, but now I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, Ryan, for sure. He's awesome. I'm gonna have a podcast going out with him this week, but
awesome.
He's the best, man. And so he's basically going through, like, if you do this thing that people in your industry typically do, this is what's going to happen. Basically, here's all the painful things that'll happen. And I know because this is what I did, and this is the pain that I went through. Or I know because this is what my client did, and this is all the pains that they went through, right? But it doesn't have to be that way. What I realized is that if I do this thing, insert your way of doing things here, what happens is that all these things start happening, or this all started happening for me. All of a sudden, now I was able to reduce my hours while increasing my revenue. All of a sudden, now I was able to take on dream clients instead of fighting for the bottom feeder clients, right? And so when you do that, you've warned them of the pain of what will happen if they continue on the path that they typically go down. And you say, but if you try this thing, this will happen. And you inform them of the beautiful future that lays ahead for them if they take your advice and do the thing that you do. And then it's like, the choice is yours, you know? You can do that, or you can do this. The choice is yours. And so now you've warned them and informed them. And there's a reason why Ryan only, like, this dude has like 80,000 followers. And he's a brilliant salesperson. He makes like 100K a month, something like that. It's insane how much money he makes. And he literally only does these kinds of posts. This is the only kind of post he does. He'll add like a photo to it. And it's because they sell like hotcakes. And not only that, they are super relatable, and they show that you've been through the pain that your ideal client has, or you've had clients that have been through the pain that your ideal client has. So warn and inform. Yeah. And what that's effectively doing is that this is a common sales tactic, is that it's stretching out point A to point B. So they're in point A right now, which is like painful state, and point B is like happy state that they want to be in. And so when you make a post like that warns them and then informs them, you're stretching out A and B and making it more painful, making them more painfully aware of the gap that exists between where they are and where they want to be. And so that incites FOMO in your content and gives them FOMO, and then that's going to make them want to buy. So it's a really, really good way to get people to purchase your services, is warn and inform. Go study Ryan Musselman. You'll learn how to do it.
I hope you guys are taking notes. And I loved listening to you, because like you explain things in a very different way to me. You're saying I love what you're saying, but you just explain it in a really different way. But I just want to add to that, like,
awesome.
And this is perfect for Amy. Perfect. I hope you're listening to this, Amy. But like, the thing that you're ideal clients will all connect with is the problem, right? If you've got a problem, if you've got a serious problem, and you read something that says, and you're like a lawyer, and it's like lawyers and like you said, and then you just absolutely define what they're going through. Bang, this is your problem. Yes, I can agree to all that. Yes, I care about that. I'm experiencing that.
Yeah.
They will assume if you now understand their problem and you can articulate it even better than they can, they will assume you have a solution. Like that's just the way that people's brains going to work. You don't even have to talk about the solution. If you define the problem well enough, people will assume you have the solution. So that's fantastic. And like if people knew what the solution was, they would have solved the problem. So you're going to get more people if you define the problem.
Yeah, exactly. And the more you can get into the emotional side of it, the better. So the more it's like getting into their thoughts and feelings on the matter,
yes.
Not just like the external circumstances, but like, I hate doing this, and the feeling that comes along with like, in my case, it's like, what does it feel like to be invisible on social media for 2 years and nobody buying your services after posting for 2 years? What does that feel like? Well, it feels freaking awful. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear here, but it feels terrible. Right? And so getting into that feeling is what will really do exactly what you said, create that bridge between like, this guy understands me or this gal understands me. Yeah.
100%. I was looking for a business coach, I don't know, maybe a year ago or something. And I remember doing this, and I was looking through the pages on Google, and there was this one landing page that just fucking nailed what I was going through. It's just all the problems. That's exactly how I feel. It was so long. And it had nothing about his experience, no qualifications. Yeah. And I was like, that was the first call I booked. And like the guy ended up being a bit of he was a salesman, right? He was he didn't really know what he was doing. I didn't hire him, but I was like, why the hell did I make that call? Why did I make that inquiry? And it was just because of that very reason. It just nailed the problem.
That's it, man. That's it. Yeah, Matt LeCave talks about that too, where it's like the more niched down and the more precise you can be, the more they'll believe you, even if you have zero experience. So it's like, do you get clients for lawyers, or do you get clients for lawyers in Melbourne who make over $1 million a year that are specialized in personal injury? And like, it's like the more like exact you can get with that, the more they'll be like, oh, that person knows me. And that's how you get clients without having any experience.
That's the shift that's LinkedIn's made, because like 5 years ago, if you were a vegan bodybuilder from Tasmania, you wouldn't get any clients, right? Whereas now, like that's exactly what would work. Like it's perfect.
Totally.
Yeah. That's interesting. Like I'm thinking about stuff all the time, right? After taking a break from LinkedIn for a couple of years and coming back and just seeing how it's changed, it's like you've got to niche down now, so people know exactly what you're known for. Because like when I started, right, I was the only LinkedIn marketer in Australia. I was the only LinkedIn trainer, created all the LinkedIn courses. So of course, when like Apple are sitting around their conference table saying, oh, we need to get someone in to talk about LinkedIn, that's it. We'll call Nathaniel. He's the guy, right? Yeah. Whereas now it's like there's 1,000 people you can call. Right?
Yeah, dude. And welcome back to LinkedIn, by the way. It's awesome to have you back.
Look out. Yeah, no, it's great to be back, and it's exciting. I feel like, in some respects, like I'm starting at the beginning, because it's just a completely different platform. It's really exciting. It's interesting. It's challenging, but it's very exciting as well. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about like the difference between LinkedIn and the other platforms. Okay. Like if creators are on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram, what makes LinkedIn different that they should know? How should creators adjust their approach, do you think?
Interesting. Well, I think the big difference with LinkedIn is that it is primarily a networking platform before it is a creator platform. And that is, I believe that's 100% true. So as much as content is important on LinkedIn, What's more important is sending DMs to people. What's more important is even commenting. I mean, I don't comment for hours a day. I'm not one of those kind of people. But I do comment on stuff. It's important to give back. It's important to show people that you care. And so I think I've seen a lot of people come over from Instagram, particularly, some people from TikTok, and they'll treat it like Instagram or TikTok, where it's just like, oh, if I make viral content, then everyone's gonna care about what I do.
Yeah.
But it's not true, because
Yeah.
they're not like engaging. They're not like meeting their people where they're at and getting in the DMs. Like so much of it is about like, if somebody likes your post or comments on your post, you connect with them and say, hey, thanks for liking my post. And then you start a conversation. It's all about starting conversations, right? The more conversations you can start, the better. And that is the biggest mistake that I see people coming over from other platforms make. In fact, that's the one that comes to mind right off the bat.
That's spot on, man. I love it. And that's the advantage of LinkedIn as well. Like, especially for the smaller, like if you don't have a big audience, like those guys on there, they're posting stuff for, they've got a huge audience that they may not have that deep a relationship with. The audience is big, but like on LinkedIn, you can build a real, like if you want financial advisors in Sydney in your audience, you can invite them to join your network. Like you can't do that on YouTube or Instagram. They have to follow you. Like this is great.
Yeah, I know. It's awesome. It's so good. And even more important to like niche down in your content, right? For those people. I mean, it's so fascinating. Like even before we started, my wife Jenna is sitting right beside me doing some work. She's just right there while we're working. But even before this conversation, we were talking about like, how does visibility work on LinkedIn? Like what's working on LinkedIn right now? And there's this trend right now of people using like Facebook meme videos or even TikTok meme videos where they're, it's like cute little videos of dogs or, fails or whatever, right? And they'll use that to get attention. But then the problem with that is that LinkedIn is a networking professional platform. And the idea behind it is that you're trying to get business, right? It's B2B. We're all business owners. We're trying to get business for our business. And if you're posting Facebook meme videos or TikTok meme videos of fails or of dogs or of like, sports wins or whatever, it says nothing about your offer. It says nothing about what you do to help people. And as a result, you won't build a strong brand. Nobody will know what it is you actually do. It'll just be a bunch of useless eyeballs on your content and without any real value driven like funnel back to you and what you do and the way you help people, right? And so I think that's a big difference too when it comes to LinkedIn versus other platforms. Is like, those tactics work on LinkedIn, but if you're here to get business, like they're not actually that helpful for getting business. You'll get tons of eyeballs, but you'll just be chasing eyeballs all the time instead of actually like converting clients. So what's the point?
So good. Yeah, no, spot on. Okay, so if I've got one more question about video, because your videos, they're super good at retention, right?
Thanks.
How important is watch time on LinkedIn? Can you share with us what you've experienced, like when it comes to the algorithm that's different with video?
Oh man, that is a good, yeah, totally, Amy. That's a good question. I actually don't have an answer for you for that one. I haven't measured those analytics enough to know if I'm totally honest.
But it's working, right? Like, that's something you do so well, and I know they're measuring it, so it must be a factor.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's two things. I can speak to two things on this that I know for sure. One is that I am aware that dwell time does affect. So dwell time is just how long somebody stays on your post for. The longer somebody stays on your post, the more it gets pushed out to other people. Although I haven't seen like concrete proof of like LinkedIn saying, yes, dwell time matters. What I have seen is that the longer people stay on my post and engage in the comments, the more it gets pushed out. So this is anecdotal evidence. I have noticed.
Yeah, they have published that on their engineering blog.
Have they? Dwell time? Okay, cool. Yeah. So dwell time is a thing that I have noticed. And two, the other thing I've noticed, and this is sort of related, is that the more viral a post goes, generally the less watch time there is. So if I get a video and it gets 1 million impressions, generally speaking, the average watch time will be about like 5 seconds. And it's like, what the hell? But if I have a video get 10,000 impressions, the average watch time will typically be between 30 and 40 seconds. And so I don't know. I don't know what that means necessarily, other than there's a bunch of people not actually
just
watching
pushing it out harder, so they're going to capture more people that are scrolling. That makes sense.
I guess, yeah. I don't know.
I mean, it's a really good sign that they're obviously going viral. But I think that one of the things that people get wrong is they think that that's the goal is to go viral. But you can easily go viral and not meet any of your business goals. Like, that's very easy. You can
totally.
Like,
if you want to go viral on LinkedIn, just go rip off some like TikTok meme videos and put them on. Like, if you just do that 20 times, I guarantee you'll go viral. But I don't know if it'll actually help your business.
Yeah,
you'll get lots of views, but will you get business? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think
if you want to be popular, go for it. But
exactly. I don't even know if it'll get you followers. I honestly don't know. I don't know, because again, it's not like people follow because they want to hear more of what you have to say and the information you're providing. And if you're just putting that kind of stuff, it's not you. You're just curating, and now you're not adding. You're just curating. So why would they follow?
Yeah. Well, I've seen a couple of guys that do it like all the time, have been doing it for a while, and they do get followers.
Do they?
But they don't get business. Like, it doesn't translate to business. And you got to remember, like, unless you're going to be doing that stuff all the time, even if it doesn't matter if they follow you or not. Like, if they follow you and then they don't engage with your content, like, it's irrelevant. They followed you. There's loads of guys with 700,000 followers that get 5 likes a post. Like, fine. It doesn't matter if they follow you. Like, if they don't care, they're not going to see your stuff.
Totally agreed.
I don't know what this question is about.
Let's see a dog walker or groomer. Viral dog walker or groomer.
Gotcha. Hey, do you know what? They would do well on LinkedIn. That's actually a cool idea.
Is it? Yeah. B2B dog walking?
Yeah, for sure, bro. Think of all the dogs that go to offices with guys.
That's a good point, actually. Or like busy people who can't walk their dogs, and so they need like somebody to walk. Oh, I've seen that before too, right?
Totally. I got a friend I had breakfast with yesterday, and he's a chiropractor, and he just sold his business. And he's like, dude, what can I do on LinkedIn? And I was like, B2B chiropractic, bro. I was like, get a van and go to people's offices and crack their backs.
Dude, seriously, look at this posture. Look at this. And this is how I'm sitting all day long. You see, you know what this is going to do to me by the time I'm 60 years old? This is going to be brutal. Hell yeah, B2B chiropractors, for real.
Totally. I was like, I'm in, bro. Let's go into business.
Yeah, for sure. Dude, send me the check, man. I'm in.
Those sort of ideas would work really well. So if someone's new to LinkedIn video, what would you say is the biggest shortcut to making something that actually works? Probably a good question, because you're like, there's no shortcuts. Do you know how to work?
Yeah. Do they have followers or do they have no followers? Or I shouldn't say followers. I should say engaged network. Do they have an engaged network or an unengaged network?
Not engaged. Not engaged. What they're doing is not working. I'm talking about people that have posted videos every week for like 6 months and kind of enjoy doing it, but are just not getting anywhere.
Okay, cool. So you got to make people care about you, basically, at that point. And I wouldn't call it a shortcut, but this is what I would do, and this is what I do, and this is what I get my clients to do too, is basically, one, you start collaborating with people. So you find people in your space to collaborate, similar to what we're doing, right? This is exactly this, right? Because now, folks watching this because of me will trust Nathaniel and vice versa, right? So you got to find people that you can collaborate with in your space that you can sort of transfer trust. And this isn't like immediate, but the more you do this, the more trust will be transferred to you through these other people. Because right now, you have no reason for people to trust you. That's basically the problem, right? So collaboration's a big one. Another one is like, once you start collaborating, you actually begin finding people who have a similar audience to you, get relatively good engagement on their posts, and are willing to engage back with you, and you comment on their posts, right? You comment on their stuff. You show them love. You provide value. And more than everybody says this, but you don't just give crappy little how insightful comments or whatever. I love this. You actually like try to give, especially at the beginning, it's really important to try to add to the post. Be funny, be witty, put a GIF in there, put a little image in there, put a selfie in there. You know, a lot of people don't do that, but if you do that, you stand out. And really put an effort to show that you care about what they're making and that you're there to support them. And if they're if they share an audience with you, if they have an engaged network and they're willing to comment back on your stuff, guess what? Every time they comment on your stuff, their network will see it and they'll start trusting you. So
100%.
if you, right, like it's not rocket science. It's not like a shortcut, but like you can do these collaborative posts and begin doing that. And then thirdly is every time you connect with somebody, you DM them, right? And actually try to start a conversation. Don't just say, hey, thanks for connecting. Like I try to do this. I'm starting to get too many now, so I haven't been able to do this all the time. But at the beginning, I was literally sending a voice note to every single person, a freaking voice note, and just saying like, hey, thanks so much for connecting. You're awesome. I really appreciate you. I love your recent post. You're like, it's really happy to just genuinely be connected. And then you show them love. And not everybody likes voice notes, but the people that do really connect with it, right? And so that forms connection, that forms bond. And so if you just do those three things, like collaborate, you know, comment in that way, and then send like genuine DMs to everybody you connect with, you're going to start building a network of people who care about your shit.
Yeah, 100%. I don't like voice notes normally, but I liked yours. I think it's mainly because they were like direct and short to the point. I think because some people do it without even thinking about what they're going to say, and you're like 30 seconds in, and you're like, "Come on, man, what is it?"
Totally.
You know?
Try to keep it short. This is something I'm realizing because people are busy, right? So it's just like, hey, I know you're busy. Just really appreciate you connecting. You're awesome. Love your stuff, and it's just thrilled to be connected. You know, it could be as simple as that. Boom. That's like 7 seconds, right? There was one shortcut, if you want me to go through it here, that we used at the beginning that isn't a shortcut, but it took a lot of effort, but it's what sort of rocket launched us at the beginning. Would you like me to share?
No, we don't want to know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay, cliffhanger. Yeah. So the biggest win, so little backstory. We started posting seriously in September and we were building in public. We started at the end of September 2024. And I posted 2 videos for this building in public series. And then we created this lead magnet for Lara Acosta. And it was basically a breakdown of every single LinkedIn video that Lara Acosta had ever made up until that point. It was like 50 videos or something, breaking down all the hook templates she used, or like hooks she used, script templates she used. I graphed out, I charted like which ones were successful and which ones weren't. I made an AI bot so that people could copy her. I put a gear list so that people could like take that and like use her exact gear to make videos that look exactly like her. I shared all the lessons, everything, like everything. And took like 30 to 40 hours to make this thing. And what that did, because I put all this effort into this thing, what I did then is I shared it with her. And I turned it into a lead magnet post, you know, one of those like, hey, DM this and I'll send it to you or whatever. I was experimenting and it kind of worked. But what ended up happening is I sent it to her through an in-mail. And I was like, hey, Laura, thanks so much for being an inspiration. I made this thing about you where I analyzed every single one of your posts. Oh, and one more thing I should mention too, is that I had been on her live stream and I had seen her talk about, I had asked on her live stream, hey, if I make this thing, would you be down to check this out? And I put it in the question, kind of like here, I put it in the question and she answered it and she's like, yeah, sure, I'll check it out. And I referenced that in the in-mail I sent to her where I was like, hey, you said in your live stream that you might want to see this thing that I sent you. Wow. You mentioned it at this point in the live stream. I spent like 30 hours making this to break down every single one of your posts. Here you go. Thank you for being an inspiration. And I didn't put there was no strings attached. It wasn't like I was expecting her to give anything back to me because I genuinely wasn't. It was more like, hey, here you go. Like, I really appreciate you. You're awesome. You've been a huge inspiration. Voila. And lo and behold, I did not expect this, but the law of reciprocity kicked in where she was like, wow, this is fucking awesome. What can I do for you? I was like, holy shit, Lara Acosta wants to do something for me? I was like shitting my pants. And I asked her, well, what about a 15-minute call? You know, would you be down to do a 15-minute podcast? And she said yes. And we booked it for the next day. And
Fantastic.
that is what kickstarted all of this. That's what allowed us to go from 0 to like 8 in 2 days. And what that is targeted networking. So you find somebody in your network that has a lot more clout and trust and authority than you, and you make something
audience.
Exactly. And you make something that's so valuable for them, that you've put so much effort into, that you like just poured over this thing. Because nobody does this. Nobody does this. Even now, I've had people make posts about me and stuff like that, but nobody spends all the time, like nobody spends 30 hours to make these things and then say, here you go. Like, thank you. I really appreciate you. And so it stood out.
Yeah, I've been like, this guy, like when I was Monday Night Live was running a few years ago, and we were getting like 1,000 people along every episode. And one of the guys was there, Paul Hodgson. He was there like every week and super engaged, great dude, but he was struggling with getting his business off the ground. And I put out this lead magnet, and like I just used to throw lead magnets together in Word, right? And like, and he downloaded the lead magnet, and then like a week later, he sent me this the same lead magnet, but he graphic designed it for me.
Oh, no way.
And it was sick, man. Like I was like, this is so cool, dude.
Yeah.
Anyway, I ended up bringing him on to Monday Night Live to talk about it. Like, and I was telling all my friends about it. I was like, this guy created this thing for me. Didn't ask him to, and it was just
totally.
It just stands out so much. That's incredible. That's so cool that you did that.
Because people don't do that too often, right? Like people either are afraid or like, oh, it won't work out, or whatever. Right?
It's like with the commenting thing, right? Like when I was, like I learned a lot from Yasmin Alec, to be honest, about the power of commenting. And he's like, you got to put something valuable, man. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go comment for an hour. And I would be like, sick post. And I was like, shit. I was like, that's what I actually want to say. But it's like, why do I want to say that? And I'm like, the truth is, I don't want to spend much time on this one. I want to get to the next one. So the hack for me was commenting was not like what to say to, it was actually just spend 5 minutes thinking about before you write your comment, and then it becomes a habit. So it's just like, put the fucking time in.
Totally. Yeah. And Justin Oberman calls this proof of life. And I really like that, where it's like, you prove that you're alive, you prove that there's something there, you prove that you care. And because in this automated world that we all live in, where everyone's striving for maximum efficiency all the time, sometimes it's the unscalable thing that stands out, right? Yeah. Dude,
man, I'm taking up. I've done an hour. Like it's the longest Monday Night Live we've had so far. Have you got a burn, or have you got another 2 minutes?
I do. I actually have a call that's starting here, so I have to jump, unfortunately. This is awesome, though. I love diving deep on this stuff.
We're gonna have to get you back, man. That was cool, man.
I'd love to, dude. Honestly, in fact, we should do a podcast together, you and I. You can come on my thing and do a podcast.
I would love to. That was great. Thanks so much for your time. I know you got a call to jump on too. So I'm sure everyone got a lot of value. This is going to be the replay is going to be available certainly on YouTube. Like this sort of evergreen stuff always does well on YouTube long term, and we'll have to get you back sometimes. If you haven't already, go follow Lewis on LinkedIn. Check out his videos. You'll get some value, and you'll enjoy. Have a laugh as well. It's very entertaining. So thanks for being here, brother. I appreciate you.
Oh, dude, I appreciate you too. Thanks, Nathaniel. That's really sweet of you. Yeah, go get it, everybody. Hope you had some value from this.
All right.